This is Optimal Relationships Daily, episode 2194, How to Cut Someone Off, A Guide to Ending Toxic Relationships, by Rebecca Crespo of minimalismmadesimple.com. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode and another week of ORD. I'm your host and narrator, Greg Audino, and thank you so much for joining me today. Now, let's tune into a post about how to identify and end toxic relationships, complete with my own commentary afterwards, as we optimize your life. How to Cut Someone Off, A Guide to Ending Toxic Relationships, by Rebecca Crespo of minimalismmadesimple.com. It's never easy to cut someone off, especially if you've known them for a long time or have a close relationship with them. However, sometimes it's necessary to sever ties with someone, especially if they are toxic or abusive. In this article, we'll provide a guide on how to cut someone off and move on with your life. Why you need to cut someone off. It's important to reevaluate your relationships from time to time. It's easy to get comfortable or complacent in a relationship. But if it's toxic or unhealthy, then it may be necessary to cut someone off and move on with your life. It could be hard to recognize the signs of a toxic relationship, but if someone is constantly criticizing or belittling you, has a negative attitude, or isn't supportive of your goals and ambitions, then they may be toxic. Signs that you need to cut someone off include: they disrespect your boundaries, they make you feel devalued or disrespected, they are manipulative or controlling, they make you feel taken advantage of, there is a lack of trust in the relationship, and you are constantly feeling drained by their presence. 5 steps to cutting someone off. Number 1. Determine why you want to cut the person off. By determining your reasons for wanting to cut someone off, you'll have a much clearer idea of the steps that need to be taken. It can be helpful to write down your reasons so that you can refer back to them when necessary. Number 2. Communicate your decision to the person. Once you've determined your reasons for wanting to cut someone off, it's important that you communicate this decision to the person. You don't need to go into detail about why you're making this decision. Simply explain that things are not working out and that it is best if you both part ways. Number 3. Be firm and clear about your boundaries. When cutting someone off, it's important that you are clear and firm about your boundaries. Explain to them what behavior is unacceptable and make sure they understand that it will not be tolerated. Additionally, make sure you take the necessary steps to protect yourself from any further contact by blocking their phone number or email address, if applicable. Number 4. Cut off all forms of communication. In order to fully cut someone off, you'll need to sever all forms of communication. This means unfriending or blocking them on social media, deleting their number from your phone, and no longer responding to any emails or text messages they send. It also means avoiding any contact with mutual friends who may try to pass along messages from the person. Number 5. Take care of yourself after the cutoff. Once you've cut someone off, it's important that you take care of yourself. Make a list of activities and people who make you feel good, and spend time focusing on them. Additionally, don't be afraid to talk to a therapist or other mental health professional if you're struggling with the transition. How to communicate your decision. Choosing the right time and place to talk. It's important to choose the right time and place when communicating your decision to cut someone off. Choose somewhere you both feel comfortable, private, and free of distractions, such as a quiet cafe or park. Expressing yourself clearly and calmly. This is key when communicating your decision to cut someone off. Be sure to use a firm yet respectful tone and avoid using language that could make the person feel attacked or belittled. Stick to the facts and make sure you express your point of view without being aggressive or dismissive. And avoiding blame and anger. This is essential when cutting someone off. It may be difficult to do, but try to avoid assigning blame or getting angry during your conversation. Instead, focus on expressing how you feel and why you need to make this decision. Dealing with the aftermath of cutting someone off. Coping with guilt and doubt. You may feel guilty or doubt your decision after cutting someone off. It's important to remember that this is a necessary step in taking control of your life and protecting yourself from further harm. If you're struggling with these feelings, it can be helpful to speak with a therapist or a trusted friend. Handling reactions from family and friends. Family members and friends may have strong reactions to your decision to cut someone off. It's important to remind them that this is a personal choice and that you need their support in order for it to be successful. If necessary, explain the reasons behind your decision and ask for their understanding. Coping with feelings of loneliness. You may experience feelings of loneliness or disconnection after cutting someone off. It can be helpful to stay busy and focus on surrounding yourself with people who are supportive and positive. Additionally, don't forget to take time for self-care and do things that bring you joy. And learning from the experience. Finally, try to learn from the experience by reflecting on what you could have done differently. Consider how your actions may have contributed to the situation and what you can do in the future to avoid similar situations. This can help you become more aware of your own behavior and enable you to make better choices going forward. Conclusion. Cutting someone off is never an easy decision, but it's sometimes necessary for our own well-being. By following the steps outlined in this guide, you can end toxic relationships and move on with your life. You just listened to the post titled, How to Cut Someone Off, A Guide to Ending Toxic Relationships by Rebecca Crespo of minimalismmadesimple.com, and I'll be right back with my commentary. And thank you very much to Rebecca for today's post, which I thought was really well done and did a good job of chronicling sort of the whole journey of cutting someone off from beginning to end. And I will end today by reiterating something I've said a few times before when covering articles about quote-unquote toxic people in our lives. There is nothing wrong with deliberately cutting off certain folks, but I do worry that we often fall into the trap of doing so prematurely. Let's look at Rebecca's list of signs that we need to cut someone off, for example. So, maybe someone is disrespecting your boundaries and you're feeling drained by them. Sure, this is a problem. But have we first checked in with them to see if something is troubling them, causing them to behave erratically? Can we at least make an attempt to identify such a thing and try to help them through it should we find something before cutting them off? Or another one, if you feel taken advantage of. Again, a legitimate sign, but what is underneath it? Is it possible that you are doing things for them and stretching yourself too thin, not because they ask you to, but because this is something you're subconsciously feeling that you have to do for people to maintain closeness? So again, these are good signs that Rebecca has provided, but it's important to examine them at all angles so that we can really stay aware of the role we're playing in the relationships with those that we might be tempted to cut off. But that'll do it for today, everyone. Thank you so much for being here as always and for starting your week off right with us. It's highly appreciated, and I hope to see you tomorrow for more. That's where your optimal life awaits.